Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I remember when I read Gori no Sho, the book of five rings written by Miyamoto Musashi. Where are you, baby doll? Somewhere there. Let me get it for you. Actually, I know it's right there. I don't want you to see my underwear. So here is my book. When I read this book, and this is a long time ago, this is the book I had as an initial, the Book of Firing, the Real Art of Japanese Management. So I had this given to me by a friend of mine, right there, in 1992, 24th of November 1992. I translated that. It was not translated at that time in Romanian. I translated it, but I couldn't publish it because that's the way it went there. So in this book, Miyamoto Musashi says that at one point, the strategy when you see the enemy being like faltering, then you should employ everything you got and focus on a certain position and destroy the enemy there. So I think this is exactly what's happening right now in Ukraine with the Russians. I think feeling, obviously based on their assessment, that the Ukrainians are being not supported and really losing. Therefore, they're going to add more troops. Russians assemble new military formation of over 100,000 soldiers for potential summer offensive. So let's go to these two articles. One is from Ukrainska Pravda, the other one is from Ukrinform. Russians assemble new military formation of over 100,000 soldiers for potential summer offensive. Lieutenant General Alexander Pavlyuk, commander of the Ukraine's ground forces, stated that Russia is forming a new contingent of troops consisting of more than 100,000 soldiers, and that the Russians may attempt an offensive along part of Ukrainian front this summer. And I'm quoting, Russia's plans are completely unknown to us. We can only go off the data they have shared. They are forming a group of over 100,000 troops and not necessarily for mounting a new offensive. Perhaps they will replenish the units that are losing combat capability. However, it is possible that by the beginning of the summer, they will have sufficient forces to conduct appropriate offensive operations in one direction. These predictions are dire. We will do everything we can to inflict as many losses on the enemy as possible, ensuring that all of their resources need to be brought in for them to stand a chance. Do you mean 30 million people? General mobilization? Shut up. However, we are preparing for a different outcome of this situation. Good. Pavlyuk recalled that Ukraine has no air superiority at this moment, allowing the Russians to launch destructive airstrikes on Ukrainian defenders' positions. The commander of the ground forces stated the military partners in Europe, I mean patrons, leaders, ONU, are well aware of the consequences of Ukraine's defeat in the war. That is a veiled, be careful, we lose, you lose. And I'm going, if we fail to keep Russian troops at bay in Ukraine, a NATO country will be next. I disagree with that 100%. Well, if you act stupidly, that's a possibility. So let's say the Poles, start killing some Ukrainians in Poland, some Russians in Poland, or let's say Estonia kills about 20% of its population, which is Russian. Yeah, the Russians will fuck them up, unprovoked, okay? So be careful. Yeah, and Estonia is a NATO country. So be careful what kind of garbage you do. Remember, the Russians invaded Ukraine unprovoked just to stop the Kiev forces, the military, to kill a Russian-speaking population in Ukraine. It was unprovoked whatsoever. So the Russians were supposed to look somewhere else, where the Russian-speaking population in Ukraine was just attacked by the military of Ukraine. Isn't that a good reason for you to smack someone? I think it's good enough to me. Let's say I have one of my children living in that house and someone over there does something to my child. What do you think I will do? I can tell you, I will fuck that person up. I will tell him, stop, stop, stop. I will tell that guy's owners, hey, tell your goddamn garbage to stop. And if that doesn't stop, I will go in. Stop. No, go in and fuck him up. Okay, so I think if you don't do that, well, I hope that happens to your daughter. All right? You don't like that one? Well, then go and intervene then. No? Are you going to let that happen? Are you going to be kind? You're going to be nice? You're going to a little bit? No, that's not how you solve things in real world. You sometimes have to, know how to fold them, know how to hold them, and, on the bowls. The cards in the, remember Kenny Rogers' Gamble song? All right, let's move on. According to him, the Russians continue to conduct offensive operations on the front lines, shelling peaceful cities. Now, this is like the communist propaganda I've been used to when I was a little boy, so I can smell it from far away. Why are they shelling peaceful cities? Where's your fucking army? Defending those cities from within the cities, right? Yeah, okay. Let's move on. Can you do that? Yeah, but then don't tell me these guys are attacking peaceful cities. Where do you think the Russians will look? For the Ukrainians everywhere? No, for your military. Where's your military? Don't shoot. I got this guy right here. Let's move on. Next article. Ukrinform. Ukrainian ground forces not ruling out Russian offensive this summer. 22nd of March 2024. Russia is creating a new grouping of more than 100,000 troops, and the enemy will likely try to launch an offensive in one sector this summer. One sector. And the same guy, the Pavlyuk, said. The Russian, the same thing is what he says here. Let's see what else. The commander recalled that unfortunately Ukraine does not have air superiority. This is the same article, okay, as this one right here. No problem. Remember, the Russians, I think, are fighting with 5% of their manpower potential, at least. At 5%. Why? They're not fighting in Ukraine with more than 1 million people. That's my assessment. I think they fight with about 600, 700, 800,000 people. Russia has the potential of using about 30 minimum, 30 million people if they conduct a general mobilization. If they order a general mobilization, you're going to have 30 million people going and stopping in Atlantic Ocean, washing their feet over there after they take them off their boots. Why? Because they can do that. They don't even have to mobilize 30 million people. They just have to employ a few missiles or tell these guys by Wednesday, what's today? Today is Friday. Let's say by Saturday evening, if these guys don't stop and you don't tell them to stop, we're going to do this. We're going to do this and we're going to do this. It's on you. And by the way, this is my phone. I turn it off. Click. That means, and I will turn it on, before I turn it off, I will turn it on 10 minutes to the deadline. And if that didn't happen, I will just end this shit. Oh, you're crazy. What, am I supposed to have my boys dying over there? The Americans dropped 2 atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki to save their boys' lives. And they would have kept on and on and on. The next one, I think it was Yokohama on the list, until the Japanese signed a unconditional surrender. That means rape me, do whatever you want to do with me, baby doll, I'm done. All right? And they destroyed cities, civilians, peaceful cities. No? Okay. That's how I remember somehow. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I think this garbage in Ukraine ends yesterday. All right? It shouldn't have started, but unfortunately, it's always been like this. Some big, important interests will maneuver us as cockroaches and will just squash us, have us fight against one another for those interests that we don't even realize they are at play. We fight for my national security. I fight for the Ukrainska Slava, Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, you do that, but actually, that's not what happens. Unfortunately, you're used by those guys. Like the First World War, like the Second World War. Who won? You can look into history and see who won. Not the Brits, not the Americans, not the Soviets. There were others. Can you name it? It was the stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just. I'm not going to tell you. you know.